The clock ticked louder than it should have. Old building, cheap mechanism. He liked it that way. Every sound accounted for. No noise disguised as progress. I am the associate. I work behind the doors most people will never walk through. Yesterday, I was reviewing a 20-year capital deployment review with Warren Buffett, and I realized he uses a decision logic that 99% of people get wrong. Here is what I learned. The room was aggressively ordinary. That is the first shock. No glass walls, no screens flashing markets, no urgency theater. Beige carpet worn thin where chairs had been dragged for decades. The smell of paper. Old paper. Annual reports stacked like sediment. Time layered, not erased. People expect power to announce itself. This room refused. That refusal was the point. Buffett sat where he always sits. Same chair. Same angle. Window to his left. Light muted by dust. No assistants interrupting. No phones on the table. Not face down. Gone entirely. When someone asked about market volatility, he smiled faintly. Not amused. Patient. You believe activity equals intelligence. You believe speed equals advantage. You believe doing more proves sophistication. This belief keeps people broke with impressive resumes. Buffett's entire system is built around subtraction. Fewer decisions, fewer moves, fewer moments where ego gets to speak. He treats action as a scarce resource. He does not waste it on noise. During the review, silence did most of the work. Long pauses, pages turned slowly. He let numbers breathe. He did not rush to interpretation. Most people panic when nothing happens. They confuse stillness with stagnation. In this room, stillness meant control. The temperature stayed neutral, not cold, not warm. Comfort without indulgence. Chairs firm enough to remind you to sit upright. This room did not energize you. It grounded you. Grounded thinking survives cycles. Excited thinking does not. The question that landed hardest came without emphasis. He asked how many truly great decisions the average investor makes in a lifetime. Not trades, decisions. No one answered immediately. He nodded. He already knew. This is where middle-class thinking collapses. You are taught opportunity is endless. You are told to stay busy, to stay active, to always be positioned. Inside rooms like this, opportunity is treated like ammunition, finite, precious, easily wasted. Buffett never framed his edge as intelligence. He framed it as restraint. He assumes most people overestimate their ability to decide well under pressure. He structures his life to avoid pressure entirely. I watched him pass on ideas others would chase for months. Smart ideas, profitable ideas. He did not argue. He did not explain. He simply moved on. That discipline unnerves people. They want validation. They want engagement. He gave them absence. The 20 punch card sat metaphorically between us the entire time. He did not name it yet. He did not need to. The logic permeated the room. If you only get a limited number of meaningful decisions in your life, you guard them like oxygen. Traders outside this building were burning punches hourly, flashing screens, constant alerts, dopamine-soaked routines. They call it staying sharp. Inside this room, it looked like self-harm. Buffett glanced at a position held for years. No excitement, no pride. Only curiosity about whether the original logic still held. He treats ownership like a long-term contract with reality. If reality changes, he exits. If not, he waits. Waiting is his advantage. People mistake this for boredom. Boredom scares them. Boredom leaves you alone with your thoughts. Most people fill that space with action to avoid facing how inconsistent their logic is. The room punished that instinct. It slowed you down until sloppy thinking had nowhere to hide. Every unnecessary word felt loud. Every unearned opinion felt exposed. I have seen faster rooms, louder rooms, rooms full of confidence and screens and urgency. They feel alive. They are not. They are hemorrhaging decision quality. Buffett's room felt quiet. It felt old. It felt dangerous in a different way. Dangerous because it stripped you of excuses. If you spoke, you needed to be right. Not clever. Right. He finally spoke about the punch card, as if explaining weather. Each investor gets about 20 truly important decisions in a lifetime. Spend them carefully. Most people spend 20 before lunch. Then they wonder why nothing sticks. This is why his returns look boring. Boring is what discipline looks like from the outside. Inside, it feels like survival. The review ended without urgency. No action items shouted, no pressure to move. He stood slowly. The chair scraped the floor. The sound lingered. Everything in that room lingered. This lesson matters because you are being trained to burn punches. Every alert, every trade, every reaction disguised as strategy. The market feeds on your need to feel involved. Buffett starves that impulse. He hoards decisions. He waits until the math screams. Then he acts once, cleanly, without drama. Most people never enter rooms like this. They never see how stillness compounds. They only see the outcomes and call it luck. It is not luck. It is refusal. The building never moved. Markets crashed. Empires rose and fell. The building stayed where it was. Same brick, same smell of dust and ink, same elevator that groaned on the way up like it resented effort. This was the room where boredom did real damage. Late afternoon light leaked through narrow windows, not enough to flatter, enough to read. The table was cluttered in a way no consultant would tolerate. Papers stacked unevenly, old reports mixed with new ones, coffee rings dried into the wood, no screens, no charts glowing. If you wanted numbers, you brought them in your head. This was not nostalgia. It was filtration. I watched a young manager enter once, energized, sharp suit, voice full of motion. He pitched a strategy tied to momentum, fast rotation, quarterly edge. The language was clean, the math was defensible, the confidence was rehearsed. Buffett listened without interruption, hands folded, eyes steady. When the pitch ended, he waited, long enough for the manager to shift in his seat, long enough for the room to lean inward. Then he asked how many punches the strategy required. The manager blinked, asked what he meant. Buffett smiled slightly. Not kind, not cruel, curious. He asked how many times the strategy demanded action, how many times it forced judgment under noise, how many chances it gave ego to intervene. The answer came slowly, too slowly. You could feel it falling apart mid-sentence. This was the dumb move everyone else would applaud. Constant action, continuous optimization, staying busy to stay relevant. In most firms, this would earn promotion. In this room, it earned silence. The genius move hid in restraint. Buffett did not reject the strategy because it was wrong. He rejected it because it spent punches recklessly. It assumed infinite decision quality. He knows better. The smell of paper felt heavier then, like the room itself leaned in. That moment exposed the difference between intelligence and endurance. Most investors focus on being smart today. Buffett designs to still be coherent decades later. Emotionally, it felt uncomfortable, not tense, exposing. You realized how often you confuse motion with progress, how often you trade decisiveness for discipline. The room did not allow that confusion to survive. I remember another visit. A journalist sat near the window, curious, restless. He asked why Buffett did not trade more often given his resources. Why leave money on the table? Buffett did not answer immediately. He looked at a stack of old annual letters, picked one up, ran a finger along the edge. He said most money is lost by people who feel clever too often. The journalist laughed lightly. Buffett did not. That reaction told you everything. Buffett does not negotiate with frames he rejects. He does not correct people. He lets results do it later. The lighting shifted as clouds passed. The room dimmed slightly. No one moved to adjust it. Adjusting would imply discomfort. Discomfort was the point. This is where the public would fail. They would feel understimulated. They would feel unseen. They would mistake calm for stagnation. They would fill the space with trades, opinions, commentary. They would burn punches to feel alive. Buffett sat still and waited for the world to misprice something badly enough to matter. The punch card idea was never meant as metaphorical wisdom. It was operational reality. He assumes decision fatigue is real. He assumes ego degrades judgment. He assumes most people cannot distinguish activity from progress when dopamine enters the system. So he removed dopamine from the environment. No alerts, no urgency, no applause, just paper, patience, and long memory. I watched him decline opportunities others would kill for. Private deals, exclusive access, complex structures designed to flatter intelligence. He asked one question: does this require frequent decisions? When the answer leaned yes, the discussion ended. That discipline felt almost offensive. It denied the modern addiction to optionality. People want to feel connected. Buffett wants to be correct. The room trained this posture. It rewarded quiet certainty. It punished overexpression. Over time, it shaped everyone inside it. They spoke less, thought longer, chose words carefully. You could feel your own impulses slow down after hours there. This is the emotional pivot most never experience. The realization that boredom is not the enemy. Stupidity under stimulation is. The flashiest traders live inside noise. They mistake reaction speed for edge. They confuse effort with insight. They burn through decision capital like it refills overnight. Buffett treated each major decision like a limited resource. He assumed scarcity even when abundance surrounded him. That assumption protected him when cycles turned. Leaving that room always felt like stepping into chaos. Screens flashing, people rushing, opinions colliding. It all looked absurd after stillness. You could see punches being thrown everywhere, most missing. The building stayed quiet behind you. The room returned to waiting. It always waits. That is the secret outsiders miss. The punch card is not about caution. It is about selectivity. It is not about fear. It is about respect for how fragile good judgment really is. Most people never feel that fragility until it breaks them. People want this distilled into tactics. They want something they can screenshot and pretend they understood. That instinct is why most of them stay noisy and broke. Buffett never taught this as advice. He built it into how he lives. The system works because it assumes something unflattering. Your judgment degrades faster than you think. Ego accelerates the decay. Activity hides it. I have seen traders with elite pedigrees burn through decision quality by 30, not because they lacked intelligence, because they spent it carelessly. Every alert, every trade, every opinion expressed under uncertainty shaved the edge down. They felt sharp. They were not. Buffett designed against this failure mode. The first mechanism is decision scarcity. He assumes you only get a limited number of truly high-quality decisions in a lifetime. Not trades, not ideas. Decisions where you are calm, informed, and not lying to yourself. He treats those moments like capital. You do not spray capital, you deploy it. Most people reverse this. They act constantly and hope quality emerges. It never does. Quality comes from waiting until conditions force clarity. That requires boredom tolerance. Most people do not have it. I have watched executives implode because they could not sit still during flat periods. They needed motion to feel relevant, so they manufactured it. New strategies, new initiatives, new trades. Each one burned a punch, none moved the needle. Buffett avoids this by structuring his environment to starve impulse. No screens screaming for reaction. No calendar packed with false urgency. No culture rewarding cleverness. The system filters action until only necessity remains. The second mechanism is reversibility awareness. He sorts decisions by damage potential. Some choices bruise, others break bones. Most people treat them the same. Buffett never does. If a decision demands frequent adjustment, he treats it as dangerous. Frequent adjustment invites ego. Ego invites narrative. Narrative replaces math. That path ends poorly. He prefers decisions where time does the heavy lifting. You decide once, then you let reality compound. This preserves judgment. It keeps punches unused. When a truly asymmetric opportunity appears, he still has capacity left. I have seen people miss life-changing opportunities because they were exhausted from being clever all year. Their judgment was fried, their conviction weak. They hesitated when it mattered because they had nothing left to spend. Buffett arrives fresh because he wastes nothing. The third mechanism is regret minimization. Not emotional regret, structural regret. He asks which choice will haunt him under pressure. Not today, not next quarter, when things go wrong and narratives collapse. Most people regret in hindsight. Buffett regrets in advance. He asks which decision he would wish he had avoided when results disappoint. Overactivity shows up high on that list, so he avoids it. This is where most viewers fail. They love the idea of restraint. They hate the practice. Restraint feels like invisibility. No one applauds you for waiting. No one notices the trade you did not make. Ego hates that silence. Fear fuels the rest. Fear of missing out. Fear of looking passive. Fear of peers outperforming in the short term. That fear drives bad decisions disguised as boldness. I have watched people torch years of progress because sitting still made them anxious. They needed to feel involved. The market is happy to take that money. Buffett opted out of that relationship entirely. Applying this does not require capital. It requires offense against your own impulses. You reduce decision frequency. You stop reacting to noise. You audit how often you feel compelled to act without asymmetric payoff. Most people refuse because it exposes something uncomfortable. They are not as selective as they think. They confuse movement with mastery. Slowing down threatens their identity. Laziness plays a role too. Waiting sounds passive. It is not. Waiting well requires work, reading, thinking, updating models quietly, saying no repeatedly. No one sees that labor. That is why it works. I have seen people adopt the language of this system and still fail. They talk about patience while checking screens hourly. They preach conviction while tweaking positions constantly. They cosplay restraint. Buffett never cosplayed anything. The environment enforced it. The building enforced it. The culture enforced it. Over time, his judgment aged better than almost anyone else's because it was protected. This system is boring by design. Boring keeps you alive. Flashy kills you slowly. If you want excitement, there are faster ways to lose money. If you want longevity, you ration decisions. You respect how fragile clear thinking is under pressure. The punch card is not a metaphor for caution. It is a warning about depletion. Once punches are gone, you are still alive, but no longer dangerous. Most people never notice when that happens. They stay busy. They stay loud. They wonder why results flatten. Buffett noticed early. He built everything around not wasting his edge. That is the system. Cold, unforgiving, effective. The tragedy is not losing money. Money returns. Cycles turn. Fortunes reset. The real loss is burning judgment before the moment that required it. I have watched men with flawless resumes freeze when it mattered, not because the opportunity was unclear, because they were depleted. Too many decisions spent on noise, too many opinions formed too fast, too many punches thrown to feel alive. Buffett never let that happen. He treated time like a vault, decisions like gold bars. You do not open the vault for anything that does not change the trajectory. Everything else waits or dies outside. This is why his legacy looks slow from the outside. People confuse velocity with direction. He never did. He knew most people move fast in circles. He stood still and let the world come to him mispriced. The punch card thinking creates something rare, psychological distance. Distance from headlines, distance from peers, distance from the constant demand to react. That distance is where clear thinking survives. Legacy grows there. I have seen traders burn out before 40, not broke, worse, irrelevant. They still traded, still talked, still stayed busy. The edge was gone. They had spent it chasing stimulation. The market kept their money and their dignity. Buffett avoided that fate by designing boredom into his life, not as punishment, as protection. When excitement arrived, he knew it mattered. Most people cannot tolerate that level of quiet. Silence exposes inconsistency. It reveals how much of your activity exists to avoid thinking.